Manny Machado got on a fight.
Check, check, check.
Mileage is what brings us here today. This is Corey, and this is the Anthem podcast.
Wasn't sure where you were going. Good afternoon, everybody. And hey, it's actually kind of the afternoon. It's Rob. Welcome to episode 389 of the Anthem podcast, coming to you from all over Los Angeles. But of course, Corey is there at the Anthem studios, gentrifying LA one neighborhood at a time. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you for listening on your podcatcher of choice. The easiest way, anchor.fm/OTheAnthem.
Yes, and we are here, strangely. Strangely for the last, I don't know, we've been doing this a long time, like the last 4 years or so. I can't remember when we shifted from Saturdays to Mondays to, whatever. But we used to do Saturdays. Now, we're doing a Saturday again.
Well, we used to do Saturdays because the involvement of, like, editing it was so much more intense.
Also because I was a lawyer and I worked a real job.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, live streaming was not a thing. Like, also, we couldn't get on a call like
pretty
like,
much
from two different places.
We've been doing this a long time, folks. It's a long 389 consecutive weeks is a long goddamn time.
But yeah, I remember, having to record a video file on two separate cameras and then sync them up along with the audio, and then Premiere would take about like 2.5 days to edit that file together.
I remember when cords were on phones and you took the whole phone in the room with you, and then you'd sit in the closet with the phone to your ear and you'd talk.
Cool story, Grandpa.
I remember when Joe Rogan had hair and he made you eat bugs. Yeah, right, Grandpa. Thanks. All right, let's get you back in the nursery.
Well, it was fun. No, but we're doing the Saturday record for a very special reason. My brother Brendan is getting married this coming week, so I'm heading up to San Francisco tomorrow to begin the festivities, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm super psyched for Brendan and Kat.
If you had any question about Corey's genetic or racial makeup, that has now been made clear, because you're like, wait, Corey's brother is getting married. It's a week-long marriage celebration. Oh, that's white people shit. That's white people shit. Okay, cool. Yeah.
So it's not a week long. Let me just nip that in the bud a little bit.
Okay, let's hear this. Go ahead.
Well, no. So I'm going up tomorrow because the Ravens are playing the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. So I would love to be able to just watch the game with Brendan, as opposed to watch it here. Like, I don't get to watch games with my brother anymore, so that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
and then
I'd much rather just drive 8 hours to watch a football game than watch it with my friends.
I'm gonna have to be up there
anyway.
I'm gonna have to be up there anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like 2 days of me and Rachel doing San Francisco, and then my family comes in, and then we go down to Carmel and the whole thing. So it's gonna be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I didn't have like a Brendan impression ready for this moment. I just thought of that. It used to be a good standby of the podcast for me to do Brendan. So I don't know where to go with this right now. But
I was just thinking, like, so he's getting married. You're having a baby.
Yeah.
At some point, we're gonna have to stop making fun of the two of you. Like, you're grown ass adults. I'm sitting in the dark in my apartment eating beef jerky, which is the first thing other than bananas I've eaten today. So.
Yeah, I know. It's like we're card-carrying adults and stuff like that. So
I don't know. Fuck all this shit, man. Come here. Just burn society down already.
Rob's going to become the guy on Hoarders that reminds him of his dad, where like he's going back to childhood and all the toys and stuff like that.
Well, I was going to say we have Roberto already. That role's already taken. The guy who likes toys, who's gay but doesn't want his family to know about it, or his girlfriend. So I don't know what my role is here. I'd like to think I'm like Dr. Michael Thompson or Tompkins on Hoarders. Have you seen Dr. Michael Tompkins on Hoarders?
Yeah.
He always refers to himself as Dr. Michael Tompkins. Always, all of them together. Hi, I'm Dr. Michael Tompkins. Nice to meet you.
Okay, so this part of the podcast is only dedicated to the people who are watching Hoarders right now.
Which, by the way, both of us are. We're both watching our way to Hoarders right now.
Just a quick aside. We were talking about this the other day because the other person who does that is Dr. Robin Zazio.
Yes.
She never, ever, lights went out. Dr. Robin Zazio never dropped the doctor. She's never, I've never seen it once.
No, so wait, though. When she talks to the people on the show, she will introduce herself as Robin to any new folks who come in. So to the hoarder, she's Dr. Robin Zazio. To like, the neighbor who just comes over and says, "What are you all doing? You finally cleaning up that mess in the backyard?" She's like, "Hi, I'm Robin. I'm here to help." Like that kind of stuff.
Okay, well,
Dr. Michael Tompkins is always Dr. Michael Tompkins. It's never Mike. It's never Mike Tommy Boy. It's never Tommy. It's never Doc. It's Dr. Michael Tompkins every single time.
I think what I'm thinking about is like whenever she introduces herself, like in the studio segment, like the talking head segment.
Dr. Robin.
I'm Dr. Robin Zazio. I'm a professional.
Funny thing about Dr. Robin Zazio, do you know she is not on Hoarders anymore?
Something tells me this is not going to be funny for me.
I mean, it is kind of funny. So she went to Canada and was an expert witness in a trial of a guy who murdered his neighbor and friend because that neighbor and friend was watching Hoarders and tried to help the friend by taking out stuff from his apartment when he was gone for a weekend. So the dude murdered him. And she went as an expert witness on behalf of the defendant, but saying like, listen, it's a mental illness. When the guy took his stuff, it was like taking a piece of him. It was as if he cut off his arm and took it out of the apartment. And that dude got sent to a mental health facility. He later got out and murdered someone else. And now she's not on Hoarders anymore.
Because she helped him?
No, I think she broke her. She was just like,
yeah,
I need to take some time off. I can't be dealing with Hoarders. These people are fucking nuts. Because they are. They really are.
She looks in the mirror. She's like, maybe I'm the problem.
Am I hoarding TV shows? Is that what?
I will tell you who really is the problem.
Yeah.
Gavin Newsom. No.
I think the voters of California disagree with you. That's what I have to say.
Well, this past week, we haven't gotten the weekend drop of news, so who knows what will be most important thing in the world on Monday. We're not here to talk about it because I'm in San Francisco.
Well, if you're in New York or if you're in Maryland, it's that LA was rocked by an earthquake today or last night.
Shook to its core.
My mother called and messaged me frantic because she saw in the news that an earthquake rocked LA. Carson got a 3.3, which by the way,
4.3.
Well, 4.3.
Yeah.
So I was going to say bigger than, but I'm sorry, equal to the same earthquake that Maryland got a decade ago.
The one we were all just like, is that an earthquake?
Yeah. Carson, also not really LA. I mean, the sports team that plays there calls themselves the LA team, but they're not. It's not really LA.
Yeah.
Also, I slept through it apparently. So what are you gonna do?
It is funny when you think you feel an earthquake in California, like especially one that's so downtown is a good probably like 30 miles away from Carson, something like that, 26, 25, 30 miles away from Carson. And I was sitting on the couch and I felt something shaking. But it's one of those like, it kind of has a similar feeling to like if a truck rolls by.
Well, I was gonna say the pregnant girl next to you was snoring, and you're like, okay, that could have been it.
But no, it was a pretty mild quake, and there doesn't seem to be any like damage or injuries or anything like that. So all was good.
Slow news day, and they want to scare people who have kids who live in LA. That's the problem.
I will say this for the LA people who are listening to me: the Shake Alert app, Shake Alert LA, I think is the exact title of it.
Yeah.
Gave me the notification as the shake was happening.
Oh, okay.
Because as I was feeling it, I went, oh, I should check my phone and see if that was an earthquake. And I grabbed my phone, and the first thing I had was a notification from Shake Alert that said, earthquake in Carson, seek cover or something like that. That was too late, but I also didn't need to seek cover. And then probably like a minute and a half later is when I got the alert from Large Quakes on Twitter.
Yeah.
Or LA Earthquakes or whatever it is.
LA Shakebot.
Yeah, LA Shakebot. And then so I'm like, okay, so just in case the big one does happen, my better chances to find it on a notification from Shake Alert than from Twitter.
I mean,
that's
maybe
what I've learned.
Maybe, depending on how far away it is.
Possibly.
Because again, I would bet you that they use different sensors, and the LA Shakebot uses USGS sensors, which are in the mountains, the LA mountains.
Well, so what they said when they launched this app was that it would take the thought was that it could give you a notification quicker than anything else because it would quickly realize that an earthquake is happening and immediately send out the notification.
Okay.
So I have to imagine that it's sort of like mainlined into some sort of Richter sensing
yeah. Also,
system.
Probably the thing that, like, you might get some false
like the idea
alarms,
being that you might get like a 15-30 second heads up of an earthquake, like a really big earthquake. If it was a 9.0 in Carson yesterday, we could have gotten, a couple seconds heads up that it was happening before. And could have like hit the deck or something.
I mean, because again, if it happened in Carson, it would have taken a few seconds to reach you.
Yeah.
I mean, Carson, it felt it almost immediately, but in downtown, it would have been a little more time. So.
Yeah, and I mean, like, if it happens in downtown, I can't do anything about that.
Well, hopefully you won't have to check your app to see if it's an earthquake. Just like...
Just look into the chasm in the ground below me. And...
Everyone in the apartment is on the floor covering themselves. Corey walks out of the bathroom after, like, guys, I got to tell you, no more burritos. I can't do the burritos anymore. The things that happened in there were tragic. And you didn't know there was an earthquake? Oh, I thought the earth shook. Anyway, in non-local news, for those who don't have children in LA and freak out, or also children, I'm nearly 40 years old, Mother. Do you really need to call and check on me to see if I'm okay? Come on. Anyway.
Well, I mean, like, I got the one. My mom called me about the fires last year, or 2 years ago, I think. Yeah.
I've already had a running text message about the fire. So
there was like a fire, and I think it was the Santa Monica Mountains were on fire at one point, and one of the large fires that happened 2 years ago in 2019.
Yeah.
And my mom called, and she's just like, "You weren't out evacuating for the fires, are you?" I'm like, "No. I'm quite some distance away from." Like,
also.
That's like
lots
DC
of concrete,
away from.
Lots of concrete and blacktop between that fire and getting to my actual apartment. Like it's.
I think I explained it to her as Bowie. I was just like, "There's a fire in Bowie. You're worried right now."
It's a big fire, but it's very far away.
Yeah,
also,
it's not right there.
It's gonna have to jump a river of concrete to get to my actual apartment.
It's gonna have to take 695 to get to you.
Yes. Anyway. But
yes,
there is some news this week that we should talk about.
Yes, Gavin Newsom avoided the recall effort. The whole thing was wrapped up pretty much within 30 minutes of the end of the vote.
I don't
at 8 o'clock.
They've been saying that. I don't like that term. He didn't avoid the recall because the recall happened. The recall vote happened. He avoided being recalled.
I mean, like, I guess it's like, Bill Clinton was impeached, but he wasn't removed from office. Like,
yeah, and we use the same word for all steps of this process, which is very confusing.
Yeah.
Like, I saw moose. I saw moose outside. Wait. Was it 1 or was it 50? Those are very different emergencies we need to prepare for.
But yes, this thing was pretty much over right away. And it seemed like that from the beginning, that it wasn't going to be. For whatever reason, there was like one poll that had it like, 51-50, and people freaked the fuck out. And then like every other poll had Newsom winning by like 15. And people are just like, what's going to happen? And, he wins by, right now, what are we at? Like 25% split between the two sides.
He's at 60, I think he's at 63% against the recall with 85% reported. So,
yeah, I mean, it's a pretty thorough blowout.
Yeah.
And you know what? Honestly, I don't know. I feel like there's got to be like a diet Trumpism that some Republicans can turn to at a time like this because Larry Elder was not helping his case.
No.
So
it got worse the closer he got to the actual
like somebody like fed him like a softball of like, what happens if Dianne Feinstein dies? Are you gonna promote some Republican? Like he could have taken that moment to lie and just say, oh well, I mean, like there's lots of great people in California, and I wouldn't necessarily. I would give it to the person who was most qualified to do it. I wouldn't just base it on political party because why would I do that? Why would I make Stephen Miller the senator for California?
Instead, he says, Stephen Miller. That's who I'd do. President as well.
Instead, he's just throwing out names of ridiculous people that California is not going to be happy with. Like, remember before gerrymandering when Wayne Gilchrist was in District 1 in Maryland?
Yes.
He had enough Democratic votes in his district that he couldn't go too far to the right.
Yeah.
It kept him kind of honest. And like there were some things that like regardless of part like you had to be for the environment in District 1.
Yes.
Because of the Bay. And even if you were a Republican who is normally not for the environment, in that one particular scenario, you had to be pro-environment because of the Bay. And whenever a Republican would try and run up until Andy Harris, they would have to be respectful of that idea that they'd have to be a little bit more to the center, a little bit more pro-environment, but that's the field you have to play in that district.
Well,
and all the Republicans in this California recall, like none of them seem to understand the assignment. Like it would be so much easier to just be like, yeah, I'm a Republican, but you know why I'm a Republican? Because I think there's too much power in the Democratic authority, and I think they need somebody to keep them in check. Like that would have worked really well, I think.
You should have run for governor. There were 40 people. You could have gotten in there.
I could have probably beat out Angeline.
But now, listen, there were no Republicans who ever ran against Gilchrist until Andy Harris because people were just like, I'm not willing to compromise and go that far to the middle. I'm not this guy. They ran. I mean, people did run, but they always ran as more traditional Republicans. And the problem was there was just a forward-thinking Republican Party there who said, you will never beat a Democrat in this district. This is the Republican who can win. And they were right. And then Andy Harris and gerrymandering kind of happened at the same time. So it put through more Republicans in the district, and the district was able to skew further to the right. But, listen, I feel like that Elder campaign was a lot like watching somebody on a skateboard go downhill. The first half of the video, really impressive. And then that Candace Owens interview was the first like wobble that you saw.
The speed shakes. Yeah.
And then Corey knows this as a former skateboarder, because of course he's going to be a father. And despite his many claims, he does not and cannot skateboard anymore. The wobbles and the shakes once you have one, there's no bringing it back. It's just going to get worse as you go downhill.
Yeah.
You got to hope you get to the bottom of the hill before everything falls apart. And I feel like that's softball.
You better hope that miraculously there's a patch of grass to save you, or like a big pile of leaves or something.
If this election was in November, we got October Elder saying stuff like, listen, if I could change it to a white man, I would. I'd absolutely do it. And then just like, what's the context around that quote? I feel like I need to investigate that a little bit more. But it's just because the wobbles are going to get worse. Like you start with the reparations for slave owners, you get down to Stephen Miller, president, senator, and eventually the only thing that gets to the end is like, of course, white men rule the world. They're the most intelligent, the most beautiful of men that are possible. And you're like, how did we get here?
You know what? I will say this. Larry Elder is certainly not like the most he certainly doesn't seem to line up for the traditional black cause, I guess I will say.
Yes.
But I also thought that there was some pretty ridiculous things that were said about him throughout there was an LA Times editorial where it was just like Larry Elder, the black face of white supremacy.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a little bit like across the line. Like he's not. What he does is he has a political ideology that has framed itself in the vestiges of white supremacy. So you take the fact that there's a there's a more white supremacist party that you believe in, and sort of make him seem like he is like, like some like truly awful. But I mean, like he says ridiculous things, and it doesn't help him in those types of situations where somebody writes that. But I also think that's kind of like a below the belt punch, like that's.
What you described is 1,000 words that were simplified into the statement, Larry Elder is the black man's white supremacy.
Yeah, I know. I understand what their point. Like the headline is not written by the person who writes the article and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, like, you could have written that same exact article and put a headline on it, like, why Larry Elder as a black man might be detrimental to black people who vote for him or something like that. Like, there's an easier way.
Too many words. Less words. I need less words from you. I know. Listen, this is the most impossible task for Corey. I need you to take 100 words and make it 10. Corey is much better at take 100 words and make it 1,000 words. And I need you to take a year to do it. But what's your better title? Come on. I'm going to give you on the spot right now. Give me a better title for that article.
I mean, I think the one I just had was...
That was long. The whole title is going to take everything above the fold.
How a black man might be detrimental to black voters, a Larry Elder's guide to the recall election or something like that.
Oh, now it's his autobiography? What the way?
I'm just saying, like, if you're gonna, it's because it's like not. A lot of people get accused of being like white supremacists and awful and stuff like that.
I have accused you of that on this podcast.
I know, and I'm saying, like, there's a lot of other people who get accused the same sort of way, where what they're doing is not like
and accurately,
not whatever. Moving on.
We hit a little too close to home. Okay.
No. I mean, like, I just, every single time you said it to me, I just sort of, rubbed it, like, just let it roll off my shoulder. But, like, like, all I'm saying is, like, it's a little bit, I've learned in my life, even when somebody looks like they're not, Candace Owens. Candace Owens gets a lot of hate from Black Twitter, right? For the things that she says and does.
Yes.
But the one thing I almost never see on any kind of interaction with it when the audience responding is largely black is not a accusal of she doesn't know what it's like to be black. Like, it's always like she's not doing right for what we're trying to accomplish here.
Right.
It's not she doesn't know what it's like to be black. Like, that sort of it takes away something just because you disagree with them politically. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And that LA Times headline, while not factually inaccurate, the things that he does believe have been vestiges of white supremacy. The things that the party that he aspires with is the party that is more closely aligned to white supremacists in current day. Feels very much like, like there used to be articles written like this all the time, and when black people first started getting into politics, when they first started getting nominations and stuff like that, where people would say like, oh, this is the white person who's actually a black person who's running for, mayor.
Yeah.
And that was a very disgusting era of conversation between people in the pursuit of civil rights. And I just think, like, I'm not going to say Larry Elder is a great person and he got, hosed by this article or anything like that. I still think he's an awful person and an awful candidate. But I also don't think that you need to go that far,
Here's the thing. Everyone I don't like is a Nazi. A story by everyone on the internet. However, that is too broad a brush to paint with. That does not mean that some of the people I don't like are not Nazis, because some of them are actual full-fledged fascists who are white supremacists. They are Nazis. So
I'm not saying if somebody is marching in like Charlottesville or something like that, and they had a tiki torch and we're doing the Jews won't replace us, then yes, I'm okay with you saying that.
And
they're basically a Nazi at that
Larry
point.
Elder supports that wing of the party, the ones who are marching with torches.
Yeah.
In Charlottesville. So listen, I am all about calling out political theater for what it is. It hurt me so much last week to have to look at my future ex-wife likely, and say, I love the dress and I love the message, but this is political theater. Talking about AOC, of course, but I'm not going to let her slide on it when you're at a $35,000 a ticket event in a dress that's super expensive, made by a woman who is doing sustainable design, and that's amazing. But she's also dating an ultra millionaire whose sister was part of a sex cult. I'm gonna call that shit out, because just because you're on my team doesn't mean you don't get called out. I call out Corey all the time for being a Nazi. You're on my team, I'm still gonna call you out. I'm also gonna call out when it's necessary to call people out. And listen, that title is not deceiving. It is accurate. Is it over the top? Yes, but it's also accurate. So, I mean, it is what it is. The heart of this story is the leading candidate for the Republicans in the state of California was a Trumper who backs all of this white supremacy, this party that is the vestiges of white supremacy. That's the story here.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it'd be like if you wrote an article.
Oh no, Corey froze.
It shows that women have smaller brains than men, or something like that. Like that doesn't help anything. That's not relevant. Your article about why Nancy Pelosi shouldn't be third in line to the presidency, that should have nothing to do with whether or not there's some like science. It's like you're bringing in irresponsible arguments for why somebody who has a thought process can't be accepted for.
But I think that Nancy Pelosi argument.
Lost steam on the end of that one.
Yeah, but Nancy Pelosi argument about brain size is different than these ideals that you hold are essentially white supremacy. They're based in white supremacy. They're in white supremacy.
Okay, so where I was coming from is this was the same sort of language that was used when like Jimmy the Greek got fired off of CBS. Okay. The type of stuff that goes into that headline is just like, I don't know. I just don't think it's responsible. It's fucking. We can disagree all we want with the political ideologies of people, but unless fucking you have a picture of Furman in the O.J. Simpson trial, if you can show a picture of him in Nazi memorabilia, then you're kind of making your case there. But short of that, you have to be able to speak about this a little bit higher than sort of the generalized ideology of what makes somebody a white supremacist.
So here's the thing, though, that Candace Owens and Elder, they are examples of people who are financially benefiting. If they had to live in my apartment, if they had to live my life and hold those views, they absolutely would not. They espouse these positions because it makes them powerful in a way that they would not be powerful otherwise. So they continue to do so. So who cares? Fuck them. Call them out. Call it what it is, and let them live in what they are, what they do. And
I don't disagree with that point at all. I mean, if me and you were doing a podcast and I started saying Republican shit, and a lot of people started cheering me on in the comment section, like, yeah, keep it going, we love it.
Yeah.
Then the likelihood of me saying more Republican shit would be higher because I would enjoy the fact that an audience is growing because of it, If all of a sudden every single view or every single video from Mo the Anthem has 1 million views because I've gone slightly more Republican, it's hard to find, especially when you talk about Democratic shit, nothing happens. For someone like Candace Owens, I totally get why they do that.
Yeah.
But then the thing is calling them out on the greed and the desire to be seen and the clicks and the attention and all that sort of stuff, as opposed to what makes somebody authentically, to whatever thing you're trying to rob them of. That it's like one of those Democrats can do better than this, and like in this case, the LA Times is basically the arm of the LA Democratic Party to be able to like write the articles that like Garcetti could never have a speech where he says Larry Elder is the black face of white supremacy. The LA Times has to do something like that. Like that's the thing.
I will say, I want to move on to the next topic. I will say though, this week I had the realization that if I were not me as I stand before you now, if things had broken differently between 2000 and 2004, I could absolutely be a leader of the Trumper movement. And if I was so disposed that money was the most important thing, this all came about because somebody told me, like, you really are talking about how like money's not that important and you don't really care about it and like you're just living this life, but that's bullshit. That's bullshit. And I was like, no, because the reality is I could go tomorrow and rebrand myself into Tucker Carlson, and I know exactly what to do and exactly what to say in order to be TikTok's Tucker Carlson. And I would have 1 million white men all over this country following me talking about how I love that bow tie and man, he's really right. I can't.
Not only that, you'd have a huge audience of people who watch to hate it.
That too.
That's the other. Well. That's the other thing. Like, while Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez certainly has her haters, and certainly has people who sit in the comment section to say awful things and stuff like that. The level of rage watching of AOC is nothing compared to the rage watching of Tucker Carlson.
Also true, yeah. But I mean, I can't compromise my beliefs in order to do that. I can't compromise my beliefs in order to even be AOC, because to me, she's a compromise. That's where I'm at in this whole thing. And so it's unfortunate. But and speaking of compromises, it looks like the huge rally that was going to put on the map the issue of the abuses of those who've been arrested and charged and detained from the January 6th. What do they call it? It's not insurrection. What do they call it? Just a protest, gathering,
Freedom Rally.
Underperformed. That was it was disappointing. It transformed into something else. It transformed into something sad. So sad. It's hard to find pictures of what was happening there. The pictures are of everything else that was happening, not the protest. So
I just have to imagine that if you were at January 6th and then you show back up for this, then if I'm the FBI, I'm officially labeling you as a person of interest. And keep an eye on, like,
100%. I wouldn't show up to this if I came on January 6th, which is probably why it's slow. Yeah.
I can't even imagine why somebody who just couldn't go to jail, like, you'd be pretty dumb to have gone to both. I think is basically the key to that.
But about 650 people have been arrested or detained or face charges. Some of them have met the end of their charges and are now in jail or facing jail time. And less than that amount, not even half that amount, showed up today in the rally in support of those people. And to your point, though, there were people who I think that this crowd is your people. These are like what you might consider more traditional Republicans, because there are reports of people going through the crowd and like some guy was waving a big 3%er flag and he was confronted by several people who said, do you know what that is? Are you a 3%er? Are you supporting this mentality? And eventually he admitted he didn't. It was just he liked the flag. He thought it was cool when he saw it at the rally on January 6th. So he brought his when he came. And they made him take it down. Like, this was a much more centrist, federalist, Republican rally. The sad thing is, 60,000 people showed up on January 6th and 300 people showed up to the Federalist Republican rally. So that is about basically the party right now.
I still hold true with what I said in our podcast immediately after January 6th, which is, I feel like if you breached the, what could I not do? Take it back pre-COVID and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What could I do on a random Tuesday in 2018 at the Capitol, which would not get me arrested? just a normal old day, right?
Yeah.
If I'm climbing the walls outside of the Capitol, do you imagine I'm going to get arrested?
I would imagine so. Oh, maybe not arrested, but definitely like accosted, removed from the premises.
If I'm literally scaling the walls outside.
Yeah. They're going to meet you at the top and then take you off the property, but they'd probably just be like, this dude's looking for an Instagram thing and just like boot you out.
If I take a flagpole and break the windows of the Capitol,
you're going to
getting arrested.
You're going to jail. Yeah, 100%. You're going to jail. If you take a piss in Nancy Pelosi's office, you're going to jail.
Yeah, if I go inside, I threaten security and police. I get into confrontations with people, or if I just walk into the Capitol with a gun.
Yeah.
Like, just if I happen to have a gun on me and I walk into the Capitol on a random Tuesday in 2018, I'd be arrested for that. There's no way you don't walk into the Capitol with a gun like that.
Side note, though,
if I go onto the dais of the floor,
and
start shouting conspiracy theory, like I'm getting arrested. These are all things. Like,
but
nobody would be surprised, if I called you up as a legal representation of my as my legal representation, and I said, "Hey, I was at the Capitol. I scaled the wall. I broke a window. I threatened a guard, and then I started shouting a bunch of ridiculous shit on the floor."
Okay, so you're going to jail.
You're going to jail. There's nothing I can do about that.
Let's try to minimize.
We're going to bleed down.
Yeah, let's see what we can do to minimize that. But here's what's not illegal, just so people keep it in mind. You can build gallows on the mall and call people traitors. That part, totally fine. Calling Mike Pence a traitor was not the right focus of that. Also, guillotine would be fine on the National Mall. There's an art exhibit for a while that was like a very large guillotine out on the National Mall. Apparently, I'm sorry I missed that.
Wouldn't the problem, you could build the gallows, but then the problem with the chanting of "Hang Mike Pence" isn't that
you can't say
direct action to?
Right, you can't say "Hang Mike Pence," but you could say Mike Pence is a traitor, because now I, the viewer, am saying you're calling him a traitor from the gallows. What you mean is,
this is putting two things together for me.
We should kill him. I get that. But you are not actually saying let's kill him. You're saying he's a traitor. And I just happen to be standing on gallows, which is what we do with traitors. So,
but it's
a very soft distinction, but it's important for people, like me, who say very controversial things.
I literally don't have any compassion in my heart for any of the people who got arrested or go to jail or any of that. Because what? Yeah, you're just not allowed to do it. Like, what? It's just like I rammed my car into the mayor's home. It's just like, yeah, you're going to jail for that. I don't know. It's like there's no free speech argument for a crime. Like,
I'm realizing you and I are angry at them for different reasons. They had the building, and then they just walked the fuck out. They had the building. And they walked out and just left it. Do you know the years I have? I wrote a book where there is armed men streaming down the National Mall to take that building, and you were in it, and you just left. Fucker.
I mean, really, that was to me, that was the part. Like, if you're gonna make an argument for there was really stupid Republican arguments about they're fucking tourists and stuff like that. That doesn't work. No. But I'm saying, the small little shred of the possibility that you might be able to make that argument is the idea that they went and they left.
Yeah.
If this was a real occupation or they were really trying to be insurrectionists, then they would just hold the building and just make it like a new Waco where they're stashed there for 45 days or something,
Now, I would fully have gone to jail because I instantly would have claimed that I was being held now after I left as a prisoner of war, because I live my life in opposition of the U.S. government. How do you know? I took the Capitol. I was in the Capitol. I took the Capitol. Geneva Convention applies. Please, there is no trial. We're not allowed to have a trial. You must hold me until the war ends, or you can release me. That's up to you. But we cannot have a trial, and there can be no punishment. Thank you, Geneva Convention. Yes. Actually, let's just put that out there now. I am at war with the U.S. government, so... Any arrest.
Hold on. Let me make a joke instead so people don't hear that. I think it would be really funny. The judge. I would like to see the judge's reaction to you making that argument. Because I imagine it would be something like, "Wow, you know what? That makes a whole lot of sense. Unfortunately, guilty."
100%. That would be the exact reaction. By the way,
you floated a very interesting legal theory, one that I'm going to consider for now and guilty.
Honestly, most judges would just be like, you know what? That's going to make a real interesting argument. On appeal. Guilty. But similar argument I made to Rev Club, who, by the way, I don't know if I even told you this, Corey, has hit me up several times about like coming out and like being a part of their thing. And I was just like, listen, I love the idea of what you're doing. I'm on the watch list for like 13 federal agencies. If you want this kind of VIP coming out to your rallies, I'm going to have to see a little action, a little less signage, a little more action. You know what I mean? So
I don't think I want to know anything about this. What I do want to know more about is this whole Murdaugh family saga in South Carolina.
Well, speaking of crazy lawyers who ruin their lives with drugs and crime, and then I don't know, fake a suicide and try to get out of the whole situation. To compare myself to them. Yeah, so I think there was a kind of a slow news week, so we're going to kind of go through some stuff that happened this summer that we didn't really touch on, but is crazy. And some of these things you guys may not have heard of at all, and you absolutely should, because this Murdaugh story to start is bonkers. So for those of you who weren't raised and have never lived in a rural area, there are sometimes families that are just like untouchable in the area. Like, the Eastern Shore has these families that have been there since 1590 in Kent Island. And it's just like, you understand that house, that family has been here since before there was a Maryland. Their house was there, and then we formed Maryland around the house. That's how old the family is. Well, this Murdaugh family is like that in South Carolina. They live in the lowlands of South Carolina on the coast. The role of prosecutor, which is more of the English variety than it is what you might be familiar with in California or even in Maryland.
It's like listed as it's a solicitor in South Carolina, right?
That's what it's called. Yeah. Yes, solicitor is a very powerful position. In fact, my understanding is police do not charge anyone with any crime. The police will always make a recommendation to the solicitor, who then charges with a crime, or the solicitor of their own sua sponte can charge a crime. So there's no grand jury. There's no charging from police. The solicitor basically controls what is crime in this district. And one family has held that position since forever up until 2009, and that is the Murdaugh family. And it's a kind of thing where, like, I think I've told the story before how I got pulled over a lot in high school, and my dad was police commissioner of the town where I lived. So at some point, they were pulling me over because they were just going to go tattle to my dad. And it was more of like, I'm not going to give you a ticket, but I'm going to see your dad tonight. And I'm going to mention this to him, right? And I'm like, yeah. Because they knew, like, I'm going to get grounded. They're not going to see me driving for a couple of days, so it was going to be fine, right?
You did a 46 and a 45. I'm going to tell your dad.
Basically, yeah. And what they would tell him is that I was speeding, not that I was doing 46 and 45, but I was speeding. Very similar with the Murdaugh family, only the oldest son there committed homicide with a boat when he was drunk driving a boat, ran into a bridge, a girl fell off, and then he fled the scene and docked the boat to try and avoid any prosecution, which didn't happen. He was prosecuted.
Well, like the scion of great political families, he's just taking a book from Ted Kennedy's book.
Basically, yes. Listen, if the girl's going to die, the girl's going to die. But I got a name I got to take care of here.
You can hear the girl screaming on the 911 call, and he's just like, later, bitch.
Yeah, just that and that. So
the one part of it, like, is the moment I knew everything I needed to know about this family. I don't know why I'm out of focus so badly all of a sudden.
Yeah, there you
go. The one thing I knew when I heard about this family was one of the kids who was on the boat was like,
it's a John Wick moment. It's a John Wick moment.
Talking to the cops in the back. It's just like, you know who that is, right? It's like, no, who? It's like Murdaugh's son. And it's just like, oh, the Murdaugh? And it's just like, good luck trying to prosecute him. I'm like, all right, this tells me everything I need to know about this small town.
So wait, Corey, I'm going to put you on camera because I want you to redo the John Wick moment for everyone so that they can enjoy this for posterity. Go ahead. Give us the dad from John Wick 1. Oh, do you not even remember it?
No, I mean, like, I remember the...
Okay, here's the setup.
Here's the setup. So... Exactly. No, like, the son comes home, and it's just like, fuck him and his dog, and it's just like... The
The guy's making a drink. He's making a drink. He's got his back turned.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden it's like, not John Wick. Or no, but the line in the movie was like he's the guy who sent after the boogeyman or something.
Well, so he turns around. He turns around and says, "Not John Wick," and then the kid's like, that's it. Yeah, John Wick," and he's like, "John Wick, he's the man you send when you need to kill the boogeyman." And yeah, but it's like the turn for Corey is everything, because the way the guy turns and suddenly serious, like John Wick. It's like, I don't know who John Wick is, but don't fuck with John Wick. All right, clearly this very scary guy does not want to fuck with him. And yeah, when you hear the cop
this
like
crime boss is just like, oh fuck.
When you hear the cop like, now who is it? The Murdaugh? Fuck. Like, yeah, okay, it's gonna be a problem. Anyway, so Murdaugh family, very influential.
Yeah.
Back in June, patriarch comes home and wife and son murdered on the property. Fucking huge story, of course. Everyone who
the one who was involved in that boat accident, by the way.
Oh, I thought the older son was the boat accident. No, the older son.
No, I think there's another son.
Oh, is there another one? I thought there was two. Is
there's
three?
Two. There's two. No, but the one who was involved in the boat accident was the one who got shot too.
Okay, all right. So the younger, more embarrassing son, the Ted Kennedy of the sons,
yeah,
is the one who was shot. So. Guy arrives home.
should we just call them all after Kennedys? I'm sure
really
love this.
Kind of could.
Deep South Carolina.
Kennedys, yeah. So they everyone who supports.
So where's Bobby right now?
Everyone who supports the Murdaughs are like, well, this guy family has been in crime prevention for a lifetime, and now he's not the prosecutor anymore, right? So anyone who had an axe to grind could come to the house, kill him, and maybe he wasn't home, but they killed the wife and the son. Anyone who doesn't like the Murdaughs is like, maybe he killed his wife and his kid, the embarrassing kid. Maybe he did that. And so it was a bit of controversy. Sorry, do you have something? Go ahead.
Yeah, can I sidebar for a second?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Speaking of things that happened this summer that we didn't catch on, I don't think we ever discussed Sirhan being released or being allowed to go out on parole.
No, speaking of Kennedys, yeah. I think I mentioned it. The week that it happened, I did mention that he got out, but...
It just seemed like... Did it seem like everyone just sort of was like, he spent his time? Like,
this is yeah, because this is the exact conversation we had. Because you were like, shouldn't he die in jail? And I'm like, no, he was like 22. He hasn't served in. He went in jail in 1968. He hasn't served enough time yet.
Maybe we have. I just feel like if you kill somebody who's running for president, that's like.
How is he any more special than any other person? The Baltimore Police Department solves 2% of murders. And Sirhan's supposed to fucking rot in jail his entire life? Come on, fuck it. He did the world a favor. He killed a Kennedy.
Oh, God, come on.
Oh, I said it. What? I said what I said.
So anyway, moving on to the next part of this.
So that story's crazy,
yeah.
and there was a lot of controversy around it. And then while this guy is kind of he like put out a reward, but it expired on a date. Like, I'll give $10,000 if we get information before.
It was 100,000 by 100,000 by September 31st.
Yeah, and it's just like, wait, why the date end though? Like, what's that deal about? Anyway, so come to find out, my boy, the patriarch there, Murdaugh, had a bit of a drug problem and also had embezzled a lot of money, both from the family trust company and from the state in his role as solicitor. So that comes out and everyone's like, oh, this is going to be a huge fucking deal. Then, dude is patriarch changing a tire on the side of the road and a guy drives up and shoots him in the head. Which was the lead story. Like, this guy who's involved in all this stuff got shot in the head on the side of the road. And now, 2 days later, he's leaving the hospital. And I was just like, wait, what? Wait, he got shot in the head on the side of the road. Now he's leaving the hospital? Turns out, the bullet grazed his skull at such an angle that it went under the scalp, bounced off the skull, and then re-exited the scalp. And you're just like,
yeah.
Of all the fucking luck in the world, how lucky is this dude? He misses the first murderer, only to get caught.
It's almost a magic bullet.
Almost a magic bullet. And so he tells the cops, like,
this whole thing in.
he tells the cops, I was changing the tire. This truck drove by, turned around the parking lot, came back. Guy asked me one question. I turned back to the tire. Bam! Gunshot. Then police find the guy because there's cameras everywhere because it's 2021, and I guess Murdahl's like thinks it's 1850 because South Carolina.
Well, I mean, it's South Carolina. So.
And they find the guy and they bring him into custody. And then the worm turns because Mr. Murdahl shows up to the police department and gives a full confession about the murder for hire scheme, him hiring this guy to shoot him so that his son can have the life insurance money, which is like 10 or 15 million bucks, because the house itself is in a trust. So the house will go to the son. The money from his life insurance will go to the son. Everything else the guy has, though, is likely to be taken as, I almost said reparations. No, restitution for the state and his theft from the company, right? So, yeah. But if he's still alive, and I was explaining this to Corey, this is kind of a complicated thing of it. If it's a whole life policy, it has a value today, which will grow over time. But that value basically like escalates instantly at the moment of your death. But if it has a value today and somebody sues you, they can force you to sell it today and then basically take that money.
Because it's like an asset.
It's an asset, just like anything else.
Yeah.
So he basically was looking for a way for the good son, the older son, the one who didn't kill a girl on a boat, apparently, and didn't want to be a movie director and move to L.A., apparently, like the other embarrassing sons people know. And the ones who don't want to be lawyers and move to L.A., by the way, I don't know who that is. Anyway,
do you mind not snoring so loudly? We can hear you. Sorry, I was talking to my dog. Go ahead.
Anyway, all in, turns out that the murderer was like a steel trap. Didn't say fuck all. And then the guy came in and tattled on himself because he was worried that the murderer was going to tell the story. And it's just like, what the fuck is going on with this story? Christ.
What's so fascinating to me is we're going to talk about the Gabby Bettino and her fiance and stuff like that in a second. The fiance in that case is getting some good legal representation. As much as people are going to hate on him for all the good legal representation that he's getting.
Yes.
He's getting decent legal representation as of this moment. I don't know what the hell's going to happen tomorrow. So please,
I mean, to be fair, I would say don't talk to the cops.
If he told the guy to run, then that's bad.
That's bad. That part's bad. Yes. Don't talk to the cops. Good. Run. That's bad. Don't do that.
I always find it so funny though when lawyers or prosecutors or people who are like heavily involved in legal the law as their life make like the worst legal choices when it comes time to go into like him going in and confessing was like just an awful.
I will never understand it. And I the only thing I can think is the old adage, a man who represents himself has a fool for a client, because you think not me, because this is true for me. You think you're smarter than everyone in that room. And I will guarantee that they oversimplified it by saying he came in and confessed. What happened is he came in thinking, I am way smarter than these guys. I can walk the primrose path and make this okay and figure out what they know and then act accordingly. And then says something he shouldn't know, and then he's like trying to fix it, and next thing you know, he's sitting there with a cup of coffee, talking like, okay, so I met the guy on Craigslist, and
well, the other part is I find that a lot of these people think that they can give a sob, or like not a sob story, but give a story that will work for them, even though they have firsthand knowledge that it never works in any other circumstance.
That's also true.
Fucking when he was the solicitor. Like, I'm absolutely positive at some point some case came across his desk where somebody fucked up bad, They were drunk and they crashed their car and it hit somebody else's car and they were sleeping in the back seat and they died, right? And then you get to the trial and the guy, says like, okay, well, I'll plead to the murder. But, I want the chance to say, like I had an alcohol problem and this is what led to it. And I made an awful mistake and I'm going to quit drinking and never do it again. And I will be a completely different person from this point on. And people will be like, no, you can't, you addict. You're never going to amount to anything.
Yeah.
Fuck you. Rest of your life in jail. Go fuck yourself. And then he's going to go in, but he's going to be able to say, like, listen, I've been dealing with a little bit of a drug problem.
I'm an addict.
Some traumatic things have happened to me recently.
It's been a bad year.
This felt like my only option. And, like, people are going to hear him and go, like, oh, well, now we totally understand the situation you've been put in.
To be fair,
I
mean, the vast majority of people he put in jail were black, and he's white, so there is a bit of a disparity there. He's also rich, and they're all poor. So,
but yeah, you never. Funny how he probably never thought of it until the moment he's trying to use it to get himself off. Probably still hasn't made the realization.
Yeah,
I mean, he's too close to it. He just doesn't understand.
Yeah.
Some point, some intrepid reporter will ask him that exact question, and he'll just be like, "You know what? I never thought of it like that."
Yeah, he's gonna have a moment of reflection.
Here I am.
And I was gonna say, actually, that's a good transition. He's gonna have a moment of reflection, like Robert Durst did in the bathroom back in 2015. If that name's familiar, but you're not sure why, it's probably because you were one of 50 million people who watched The Jinx like we did back in 2015.
Oh, they got you, Robert.
By the way,
they fucking got you.
I had forgotten up until you mentioned it. We've been doing this fucking podcast so long. We talked about this like the week it went live. We watched it. We talked about week on week. We talked about it over the course of 3 weeks. It's been a long time. But yes, to remind you, as Corey just did, a nice
show how long. This is the show how long it is. Look at a picture of Robert Durst when he was recording The Jinx, and now look at a picture of him now.
Yeah.
He's like fucking. He's like Howard Hughes or something like that. He's just like. He looks like a tremendously old man.
To be fair,
who's also listen, gone crazy.
We don't have to look at Robert Durst. We can look at. Hang on, I got it here. We can look at Corey from like way back at the beginning of the podcast there, and then compare.
That was even before that, though.
No, that was back in college. That's not fair. But you can look at us as well, because as much as I think I looked exactly the same as I did 10 years ago, I do not. I also don't feel the same. I say as I grunt getting down into this chair because my knee hurts. But
getting to the point in our lives where like getting in and out of chairs.
I used to make fun of my dad for doing the things I'm doing now. I have no kids. I sleep all day. It doesn't matter. But Robert Durst, as Corey did the nice impression of him there. If you remember the end of The Jinx, he asked to take a break. He gets up but keeps the mic on and then goes to the bathroom. While he's in the bathroom or on the way to the bathroom, he says something to the effect of, what do you want me to say? I killed her? And then well, they got you, Robert. They got you dead to rights. Like, to himself on the way to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Which is the big moment at the end, because it's like, oh, he did actually kill her. Fuck, okay. Yeah. And if you don't remember The Jinx, he was actually charged for another murder that he got away with while he was living as a woman, a mute woman, in Galveston, Texas, or Houston, Texas?
Like somewhere South Texas.
His neighbor just died, disappeared, died. And they found out that, the neighbor's not a mute woman. It's a dude named Robert Durst.
Well, the for people who haven't watched the Jinx.
It'll be back. It'll be back on HBO this week, I'm sure.
What's so great about it is that, it seems like they want to sort of give him the benefit of the doubt throughout the entire series.
Yeah.
So they're asking him questions about all these different murders that are related to him in some sort of way.
4 of them. And 4 people died around him.
And he's giving explanations for what he's saying. And then in the last episode, the moment clicks where it's just wait a minute. There's no way he's being truthful about any of this. We have the evidence. We have everything that you would need to prove in a court of law that he did it. And they have this real realization at the end where they're just do we have another interview scheduled with them? Do we even do this, or do we call the police? Or
yeah.
And I think they called the police, and the police were just just keep doing the interview.
Yeah, see what he says.
As soon as we get him, he's not going to talk, so you might as well.
Yeah.
Might as well
And the wheels of justice, the wheels of justice turning so quickly. 7, 8 years later, here we are. He finally got a guilty finding in court this week, which is why we're talking about him. To the murder that he specifically...
I can't do the trial anymore. There's COVID in here.
Which, yeah, by the way, so...
we have to postpone for COVID.
Trials started pre-COVID, then stopped for a while, and then continued in a courtroom where the defendant and his attorney and the prosecutors were all sitting in the jury box, and the jury was sitting spread out across the gallery just to keep distancing. Man, things are weird.
God, that's got to be weird.
Yeah, super weird. But yeah,
you're so used to where you go. There was I can't remember. There was a sports thing where the Brewers had to play the Chicago White or like the Cubs in a game, but because of some sort of problem, they had to move the game to Milwaukee,
Chicago.
but Chicago was going to be the home team.
Right,
So,
yeah,
like, and it's just like because of MLB rules, they have to have the home dressing room. So like the Brewers are in like the visiting dressing room for like 3 days, and it's just like it's so fucking weird, right? Like, why are we here?
I mean, it's got to be like you're Nick Markakis, right? You've spent 9 years in Baltimore. You come back as a Brave, and it's end of the game, end of the long series. You strike out in the 7th, and you just turn to walk back into the dugout, and they're like, Nick, over here. Wrong dugout. Wrong dugout. It's like I've been in this stadium a long time. I've struck out a lot of times here. I know what dugout to go to. All right, it's fine. But yeah, I'm sure it was super weird. But justice may not be fast. It's very slow, clearly. But it did work. Convicted of first-degree murder. Now he is facing life without parole, which is going to be about 4.5 months based on how he looked in the courtroom. Couldn't even come in the courtroom for the reading of the verdict because he'd been exposed to somebody in the prison who had COVID. So he had to be isolated and watch on a video camera via video. So rough. There was like 300 witnesses, 80 experts who talked. Some of the guys who were on the Jinx actually came into the courtroom as part of the trial. So craziness. But the Jinx, I would imagine, is still available on HBO. I think everything's still there. So,
yeah, 78 years old, by the way.
Good God Almighty.
Yeah. But like at this point, like you lived a life. Like they're not gonna be able to take away all the great things. Like that's the to me the real problem with whenever like somebody wealthy and like well connected and had a great life, like. Finally goes to jail. Like, I feel like this is going to be what happens with Trump.
Yeah.
Like, Trump is going to get charged on some bullshit. And then they're going to, like, sort of, like, slowly work its way through, court for the next 10 years or some nonsense. And then, finally, at age 89, Trump will be sentenced for 15 years for whatever he did. And then he'll die in prison 2 days later.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, he didn't experience any of jail. He spent 2 days in jail, effectively. And the rest of his life was flying around on helicopters, millions of dollars, and beautiful women, and all this sort of, like, and being president. And at no point anywhere along the way did he feel like an outcast or like he did something wrong, up until the 2 days he had to spend in jail, before he.
Do you know the story of George Eastman? Do you know who George Eastman is?
Of Eastman Kodak?
Of Eastman Kodak, yeah. So do you know the story of George Eastman?
No.
So George Eastman seemed to be wealthy and powerful and have everything, and then suddenly committed suicide at 77. So he basically did.
Oh, he had like diabetes, right?
Had diabetes, met with a doctor who told him they were going to have to take half of his foot. And they said, if we're lucky, we'll take half your foot. If we're not lucky, it will be the whole foot. And basically told him that the next 20 years of his life, progressively they would take more and more of his legs because his circulation was so bad that I think half of his foot was dead already. That's why they were going to have to take half of it off. And so he was like, okay, give me the night to think about it, and then we could schedule the surgery. And the doctors left, and he committed suicide. And basically he was just like, I'm 77. I've done everything a man could do. I've lived a whole life. I'm not going to sit here and waste away for the next 10 years. And in a way, that's where Robert Durst is right now. He's going to go to jail. He's going to do maybe a couple of months in jail before he dies, but he's lived a full life. How is this really a punishment for anything that he did? I guess Eastman wasn't really a punishment either, but you know what I mean?
I get that he has the crown of being convicted on this. Like he has the title of convicted murderer. Like you can say that.
He was guilty though after I saw the movie or the documentary. After that, I was just like, oh, he fucking did it. Okay.
Whether or not but I mean, since then it's been just 6 years of him just chilling out, waiting for this day. Like I just don't, I'm sure he's not been out on parole or on bail or anything, right? So he's probably been spending time in jail this whole time, hypothetically.
So
but
if I remember the story, again, I haven't followed it really closely, but I think he was out on bail for a while, but then violated some term of the bail, and they put him in custody.
But usually when you're in jail, it's pending the outcome of the trial. It's not like you're in like county jail, right? Like holding.
Yeah, and I mean he's
as opposed to
old
like
and
the
sick.
maximum security prison.
And he's old and sick, so he was in like the special hospital jail, which is just basically like a terrible spa.
Yeah,
that you can't leave. So, but I mean, also talking about running away from your problems. The final story for this week, crazy shit that I can't believe is real, but will also, as Corey pointed out in our pre-show call, will be a movie at some point. The Jinx was already a movie. The Murdaugh story will be a movie at some point. This also likely to be a movie, probably sooner rather than later. I don't want to mispronounce her name. Her name is
Gabby Petito.
Gabby Petito. And Brandon?
Or Brian Laundrie.
Brian Laundrie.
Laundrie.
There's no N? Laundrie?
No, it's Laundrie.
Laundrie.
So no
Brian Laundrie. So if you know the name Gabby Petito, you probably are on TikTok, and you are a wannabe traveler.
True crime.
Well, no, I guess the true crime thing is now. Previous to that, it was people who were down for like van life. And if you are young and want to get out of society and live van life, because she was a aspiring van lifer who had just embraced van life, and they were out on their first trip, her and her boyfriend Brian, and made several stops. She had a couple 100,000 Instagram followers and followers on YouTube or subscribers on YouTube, and all of a sudden stopped posting. And then her family got 2 texts from her that may or may not have been her, based on didn't really sound like her, could have been weird. And then a couple days later, boyfriend shows up back home with the van alone. And nobody asked any questions, which also very weird. Very weird that nobody at the house was like, hey, where's Gabby? Apparently they did. But so a few days later, her parents report both of them missing because they haven't heard from anybody. His parents then say, oh, no, we know where he is, but we should report her missing because she didn't come back with him. And they basically have a partial history of this trip because she posted a lot on social media, and also they ran into cops several times for domestic situations that arose. And I was like, oh, domestic situations arose. Well, clearly he's guilty. Until the story I found just before the podcast, which said, in every situation, she was the aggressor, and that he said, no, it's fine. I don't want to press charges. So who knows what to think? And a little wrinkle that may be nothing, but maybe something, is the last place that they are known to have stayed, 2 other women were murdered there at the time that they were there.
Hold on a second.
Yeah, sorry. But 2 other women were murdered there at the time that they were there. Here. Oh, no, he's back right. Okay. So it's all unbelievable. And now today, in fact, a story came out about someone who also is on TikTok and who didn't know anything about the rest of this story, saying, oh, this dude, I saw a picture of this guy. We gave him a ride hundreds of miles away from where he was supposed to have been at the time. Now, Corey said he's following good legal advice. And that is true, because after they reported Gabby missing, the cops were like, so wait, you guys go on a trip, you show up alone, we really like to talk to you. And he was like, I ain't talking to no cops. And that was it. And so everybody's like, we don't know.
Well, not only that, but now he's missing.
Well, like, now, yes, today it's official that he left. By the way, I told you, I always wanted to be this guy. Packed a backpack, said, I'll be back, walked into the woods, and hasn't been seen since Tuesday.
I'm going to go get a pack of cigarettes real quick, and just disappears.
That's Unabomber shit. That is like, I'm going to go in the woods and you will never find me. That's the Olympic Park bomber, Rudolph, who lived in the woods for like 11 years and nobody knew he was there.
So it's a pretty easy piece of legal advice that pretty much works in any situation. If you're watching like some true crime thing, I especially had this watching, what was the really popular one? God damn it. In Wisconsin, Manitowoc.
Making a Murderer?
Making a Murderer.
Yes. That you kept screaming at the boy, Brandon.
Yeah. Sage legal advice that works almost all the time. Shut the fuck up.
Never talk to the cops.
Don't talk. Don't say a goddamn word ever. Under any circumstances. No, you don't want a bagel. Don't answer any questions. Just Fucking sit there, say you can talk to my lawyer when he gets here, and then never say another word.
Now, Corey, you're also not as
that-
paranoid as me, but I will tell you, don't take anything to drink either out of a can. If you want something, get water in a paper cup. Why a paper cup? Because the place where you sip from the cup, rip it off and eat it when you're done with the cup. Because otherwise, they'll get your fucking DNA off the can or the coffee cup.
I mean, anything you do while you're in there is voluntary to.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say I agree. If you say
Yeah.
I'll take a drink that you're offering me, and then you say this is trash, throw it away. Once it's trash, they can keep it and they can run DNA on it.
Yeah. So don't do that either. Don't take the. Your lawyer can get you a drink.
Yes. I'd like my lawyer, please.
But obviously, there's more to come with this thing. From a 1,000-yard view, not knowing literally anything about this, it seems like there's either one of two things that kind of happened here, which is either he killed her and left her in the middle of somewhere, or just not even killed her, but just said fuck this, and just she got out in the middle of fucking Utah somewhere, and he just left. Or the other one is that there was it was either he fucking left her, or there's some sort of foul play involved. Either way, it doesn't look good for him.
No.
If he had a conversation with the lawyer, and the lawyer said, "I would advise you to shut the fuck up and not say a single word," that it leans towards something happened that he might be legally responsible for.
I will say,
But
there is a good chance I could have been this dude at some point in my life, because the number of times a crazy woman has ordered me to pull over to the side of the road where she got out, and I thought to myself, I should just drive the fuck away and leave this broad on the side of the road. Something in the back of my head said, don't do that. Don't do that. Follow her slowly at 2 miles an hour, begging her to get back into the car, asking for forgiveness for whatever it is because you cheated on her in a dream and didn't apologize for it all day, even though this is the first time she's mentioning it, but she's been pissed about it all day. Again, that is a real scenario that has really happened in my life.
Yeah.
So let me just paint a picture where he did nothing wrong, but he looks very guilty. Several domestic violence incidences where she was the perpetrator. They get into a fight. He just leaves to get out of the situation. And then she goes missing through either a serial killer who murdered 2 women in that park and then murdered her, or maybe they're driving and she's like, pull over, I'm getting out. And he's like, fuck you, and drives off. And then he assumes he's going to get a call from her or a text, or maybe she went back to New York. I don't know. I don't care. We're done. And he goes home, and then she just never shows up again. And it's like, listen, I'm working on that screenplay where the guy is incidentally related to 2 people who are later killed. And they're just like, there's too much here to be a coincidence. 2 women you were last seen with are dead. You're clearly the murderer. And it's just like, I don't have a good argument why I'm not, except for I know I didn't kill them, but I know that looks really bad. And any lawyer would be like, shut the fuck up. Don't say anything. There is nothing you can say here that is going to make this any better.
Nothing good comes from talking. That's the thing. So
they're going to find a dude with 90 pieces of jewelry in his trunk in 3 or 4 months, including the necklace that you gave her on your anniversary. That is when we can talk about what happened. Not until then. Not until they find the guy who actually did it. Or when she walks out of the wilderness, like, why is everybody stressed? I threw my phone in the lake and he left me on the side of the road, and then I just went hiking for 2 months. Because
now, I mean, the one thing I would say is that the one caveat to this is if you know that she is in peril,
okay, yes,
and she could potentially be saved, and you're not saying anything, then you're really putting yourself in kind of a spurious condition legally.
Unless you buried her with a straw for air, then probably better not to mention that, because at some point it's just going to be better if she dies and nobody finds her.
Or if last you saw her, she was hanging from a cliff above
the
Grand Canyon, and you drove away. There's kind of a Schrodinger's fiance thing going on here.
As far as I know, she's still alive, hanging on there. I guess it's fine.
But I mean, if they find out that you knew that she was hanging and you drove away and you did nothing, then you're legally kind of responsible what happened there.
What if, though, she's yelling at you, get the fuck away from me. I don't need your help.
I don't need you. I can hang here for weeks.
Are you responsible if she dies after she tells you to leave? And she's like, no, don't just stand there. Get in your car and drive away as she's hanging off the side of the cliff.
He gets out of the car, slams the door, walks up to her. He's like, I need you to sign a legal affidavit to that boy.
Start recording on your camera.
This gets to court. I don't want to be held responsible. You will. Fuck you. You will.
I found a video on my phone, deep in the photos of me and an ex, where I was like, you are going to yell at me in the morning, so I'm going to record this because I want you.
To see what it's like?
No, to just be like, I'm going to leave you on the couch because you want to sleep on the couch. Now, usually we fight for a week after you wake up on the couch, and I tell you, you yelled at me and told me to leave you on the couch. I'm recording this so that tomorrow you can see it. Fuck you. I want to sleep on the couch. I'm going to sleep on the couch. So tomorrow you're not going to be mad. Now I'm not going to be mad. Okay. And I remember the next day, her saying, that is not me. That is not me in our apartment on our couch, drunk, arguing with me about leaving her on the couch. So, you know.
It doesn't sound like me. It doesn't look like me. I doubt it's me.
Listen, they're going to find her. She's going to walk out of the woods. He's going to have that affidavit, and she's going to be like, I never signed that. Left me hanging off a cliff? Yeah, I mean, he would,
Does that sound like something you should just leave somebody to be doing?
And something bad may have happened to her. We shouldn't laugh, but it's just...
No,
I see all the crazy women I've ever dated in this scenario.
I feel, like, obviously, I hope that she's found and she's alive and she's, healthy and all these things. It's not looking good, which is the, we're basically 2 weeks out now, right? So and that's the thing. It's like 10 days since the disappearance and another half a week since then.
Yeah, and I most of the stuff you read in especially major news is it's a disappearance. People are looking, and I get that, but I also know that people who are in these kind of places are, if she said she found a very nice couple and they said, oh, we're going to go out into Grand Teton, which is 500,000 square miles of wilderness, and just be like, we're just going to go off grid for 4 weeks. You're welcome to come with us. They're super nice people. Vanners and campers are the nicest people in the world. And if you were just like, I need to get away from the world and my ex and all his bullshit, they would be like, oh, we're going to go out in the wilderness for 4 weeks. You're welcome to come. Okay. There's going to be no cell service, no TV, no nothing. It's just us in the wilderness. That's fine. That's what I need. A week from now, she could come out with some people and just be like, oh my God, guys, I am so sorry.
I didn't know that everyone was looking for me.
My fault. And you just never would know. The higher likelihood is not that, but
right. And I mean, at the very least, she put out some sort of call to her parents or something like that, saying hey, I'm going to be out of contact for a while.
Yes. Which is one of the messages
would work
that
into that possible ideal.
Yeah.
But what was the thing? Usually missing people who've been missing for more than 48 hours are usually not found alive.
If you can't get a lead on a disappearance within 48 hours, they're usually not found alive. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, we're just talking statistics here, basically. It's just I don't know. I hope
60% of disappearances do end successfully, because of all of the things that are reported as disappearances, the vast majority of them are people who just don't want to be found. They want to just get away from whatever they're doing. I mean, there was that guy who was at a football game and then just walked away from his family, and they found him 4 months later in Las Vegas, just living. And he was just like, shit, You found me. All right, I'll go back to Houston. And he was like, what? We thought you were dead. And he's like, nah, I just got sick of all their shit and just walked away. Never touched the bank account, never touched anything. Left at halftime of a football game and never looked back. Just went to Vegas.
Broke the cell phone in half, just kept driving.
Just kept going. And again, Brian, who, and I do agree with the family in a way. I'm sure he's getting good legal advice. Hopefully the running part wasn't legal advice. But the family in New York, her family is saying, keep in mind, she is missing. He is hiding. That's absolutely true. My boy is just like, I'm out, and he's hiding somewhere, so he's not missing. But I can't say I wouldn't do the same thing, because listen, every televised disappearance we've seen in the last decade has told you you're going to get hounded to death. CNN is in his parents' front yard right now, recording the back of the blinds, hoping to see something. That's it.
Yeah. Hoping to see him texting somebody going like, man, I can't wait. I can't believe I got away with this.
Yes. Yeah.
So that they can ask him about what he was.
I mean, it
was a fantasy football trade. Like you jackals.
CNN has the spoof box that they borrowed from the Baltimore Police Department up outside, just intercepting everybody's calls and texts. Yeah, the Stingray. There you go. Yeah, just intercepting everything, hoping for something.
Well, we'll find out more and we'll talk more about it. But this is a very weird story.
Yeah.
That I hope obviously that everyone turns out okay, but we'll see what happens from here.
Yeah.
Talking about things being okay and seeing what happens from here.
Mm-hmm.
TheAnthem.com. Corey to TheAnthem.com with The Anthem on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the listener line 443-219-7595.
What's that number again?
443-219-7595. You can find more on me at our website, CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com, Facebook.com/Corey Baker Film, and at Legends to Be 5 on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And so about ready to go to San Francisco, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Yeah, so it's a new video while people wait, or any.
I'm thinking about it.
You gonna shoot some content while you're up in New York or up in San Francisco? Yeah. Got some new content coming? Working on the new content for you guys? Yeah? All right. Anyway, you can find more of me. Now, I was also going to say, apologies. I'm in a dark apartment with one light, which is the ring light that's illuminating me now. And there's a gnat in here. And this gnat really wants to be on the podcast. It is in my face and flying around this light. It's driving me nuts. Anyway, you can find more of me at Robert and Cheek on all social media, robertandcheek.com. You can find links to all the stuff I'm working on. And of course, I stream irregularly, but I'm going to try and stream more on Twitch.
More regularly than me.
Also that, yes. On Twitch, Robert and Cheek on Twitch. And you can play Call of Duty with me if you would like. It's Ankou, Ankou, is, Kerr, K-E-R, is Y-S on Activision. Send me a friend request.
Wow, that's oddly specific.
So you have to give your actual like full name for people to find you. There's actually 7 digits that go after that, which is the best way to find somebody. It's the full name plus the 7 digits, and I'm like, Activision did not think about this when they set up this system. So it's real hard to find people, but that is the Dark Man, who is the guide that takes you to death, which I thought was fitting for Call of Duty because I'm the Dark Man who brings you to death.
Not John Wick.
He's the one you send to kill the boogeyman.
Well, I think we've done good here today.
We've done something. I don't know if it's good. But as always, you're listening to the The Anthem podcast, part of the Anthem Digital Network. For Corey, this is Rob. Have a great week, everybody. An extra long week. Although, I mean, you're listening to this on the normal day. Unless you're watching us live, then not so much. But, yeah.
See what happens next week.
Yes. Yeah. I just realized I never found out about Vegas, so maybe we'll see. Have a good week, everybody.
Just have this podcast that's happening in Nevada.